please. Okay, so we're going to come back to this in just a couple of minutes. First, I want to introduce myself again. I'm Danielle Vangelli. I am an EDD student here at Rutgers. I haven't even finished my first year alone with Susan and Linda. And I am taking a course called Educating Teachers with Dr. Murrow. I don't know if any of you know her. She does literacy stuff. And for one of our assignments, we need to come and observe a class and teach a lesson. So here we are. Again, thank you for having me. Thanks, Dr. McLean. So I am a teacher now for 9 years. I became a teacher by an alternate route. I had a mom who's a teacher, and she said I would be one my whole life growing up, and it was some kind of unconscious resistance and wanting to be a rebel, and I said no, no, no. And after college, I did a program called AmeriCorps, and I went to the Midwest to work in a community service project. And when I worked in a school, as soon as the first day I was up in front of the class, I realized that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I applied for the New York City Teaching Fellows, and I got in, and that was a very short stint right before I started teaching in September. So I had the summer to prepare. And then I got my master's in the first 2 years of that program. And so I didn't get any time in the classroom, like I heard you guys talk about at the beginning of this class, how you guys had, everybody seemed to really love their placements for their student teaching. So during my master's time, I really valued the few professors, unfortunately, that showed me what it was like in the classroom and really prepared me to teach. So in today's lesson, I'm hoping to not only talk about the text, talk about YA Lit, but also give you some real world in the classroom right now, things that you can take away with you and infuse in September. So if you notice, I have an aim on the board. I teach in New York City, I think I said that last time, and I have to have an aim. The APs are looking for an aim when they come in. It should be in the form of a question, and my AP, teaching special ed, really likes to focus on strategies. It's always great to have a do now, okay? Right away, you have your kids come in there, they're doing something. I have hung around the room, class expectations. I teach in self-contained and team teaching classes. Today, kids got a little bit silly, and I had to refer to it, and it helped escalate the situation so we can get back into the content. They're very simple rules. A mentor of mine actually once said the only rule you really need is to act like a student and then talk about what that is, but it has the basics there. I also have posted on the wall all the time guidelines for effective group work as part of the procedures at the beginning of the year. We talk about group work, we talk about what effective group work is, we practice it again at times throughout the year. When my kids are a little bit off task, I refer back to it, it's always there for them. And also I have a word wall. My sister is a kindergarten teacher, and she saw me putting this together and she was like, what level is that for? When I said college, she didn't understand, but basically the literacy skills that work at every single level. So the content is just a little bit higher. And this is posted around the room. It has the literary elements. It has our buzzwords right now with the Common Core, dealing with argumentative writing. That's always there. As we learn new vocabulary words that are really important, we add them to the word wall. I actually wish I would have brought it in, but I give students envelopes. I give them index cards, so they're creating flashcards all throughout the year. They keep that with them. Some like it, some don't care, but it's one strategy you can use. So let's get back to our aim. How can our knowledge of 21st century readers help us engage in and apply strategies for teaching YA Lit? This strategy we're going to start off with from the Do Now is actually one I just learned in the class for the EDD program last week. And it's through a website called tagxedo.com. And we're basically going to create a picture like this with the words from Tyrell. It's free to get onto it. You just have to sign up. So we're going to go around the room, please, one at a time, and please just give me one word, and then we'll do that probably just 2 times. So choose the 2 best words you like. Caitlin, would you start us off, please?
Yes. Choices and judgment.
Okay, just give me one to start. We'll come back to you, no problem. Jess.
Honest.
You know what? I'm entering the wrong place. Give me 1 second. Sorry. I always have technological issues. My students know it by now. I usually have to thank them for being patient. Adam.
Unfiltered.
Rose.
Dialect.
Nice. Christine.
Priscilla.
Priscilla. Sorry.
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood. You're sitting next to each other. I'm not trying to just call you a name because you're Asian. I know we talked about that. Sorry. Priscilla, Christine. Youthfulness. Nancina.
I'm sorry. I was like filling this out, so I really...
No problem. Just give me a word that represents Tyrell. Actually,
I said team.
team. All right. Jessica.
I said coming of age story.
Phrase is fine. I should have actually written phrase. That's my fault. Don't tell me. Oh my God. All right, tell me.
Laura.
Laura, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, relationships.
Sue.
Uncertainty.
Linda.
Challenging situation.
Yes, I am a one-finger typer. It's really ridiculous. Susan.
Big brother.
Conflicted.
Word.
Urban.
I'm thinking about striking sun. I think it's important.
Okay.
Cynical.
Cynical.
Protection.
Angry.
Caitlin, we're back to you. We're going to go around. Actually, just for lack of time, I think that we'll just submit this, okay? So I'm going to hit submit. Sorry, I know everybody's dying to get their words in there. And close this. And here we have a picture.
Mine's the biggest.
And if we go, we can make them all big so there is no competition. And we can change the shape over here. I like the boundary.
What's the shape right now?
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it has a name necessarily. Oh. Right? Okay. So let us, we'll come back to tagxedo.com as a type of strategy we can use with our 21st century readers. That is what we're talking about in this unit, and you guys talked about last time. Let's see if I can get this to cooperate with me and become big. Yes. All right, so I don't think the remote worked that with me, so I'm just going to use the old finger. So I did some research, and when I was looking up the 21st century reader, it seems synonymous pretty much with the 21st century learner. So can somebody please read that aloud for us, Colin, would you mind?
Yeah. Wait, yes, I will do it. Alright, only a decade and a few years in, how can we fully describe the 21st century learner? So far, this we do know. She is a problem solver. Critical thinker and an effective collaborator and communicator. We also know that a deeper learning environment is required in order to nurture and grow such a learner. From page 1.
Thank you, and that's from this website if you want to check that out. At Utopia, they have a lot of great stuff on there too. So yeah, Colin noticed right away we're already using the pronoun she instead of he immediately. And again, at the end, we're talking about this deeper learning environment, and that's what we're really going to be looking at today with strategies for our 21st century readers. So let's please read some other characteristics of 21st century learners and readers. Michael, could you read the first one, please?
A quarter young people are struggling to read and comprehend texts on grade level as they enter middle and high school.
Thank you. Susie, can you read the next, please?
More than 60% of middle and high school students scored below the proficient level in reading achievement.
Thank you, Rose. Would you mind? Oh, I'm sorry. Rose, can you do the next one, please?
Many of the 1.2 million students who leave high school each year with a diploma have low literacy skills.
Okay, so all of this is kind of grim, I would say, but it's very, very common. I mean, these are definitely characteristics of the readers we see today. I was really somewhat astounded by how you guys said that you met so many students when you did your student teaching who were like, they said they weren't a reader, but then they had books like hidden in their book bags. I don't see that every day, and I think when you get to larger schools, especially in urban settings, which is where a lot of the students like Tyrell live, not that they only live there, but you're going to see that these characteristics come to light. Just as far as a strategy, by the way, it's really good to just randomly call on students. I'm sure you've seen it, just to keep everybody on their toes. So this is interesting, I thought. Over the last 30 years, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, this assessment, scores have not changed for 9, 13, and 17-year-olds. Okay, so out of, I forgot if it's 320 or 350 being proficient, we've had the same score all along the way. So pretty much everybody's skills are remaining the same. So what does, let's talk about Tyrell for a second. This is my chart paper. This is, and this and tape I live by. In the high school classroom, especially in an urban setting where we don't have computers for everybody, you're going to be very low tech a lot of times, or I am very low tech a lot of times. So I always have to have my chart paper and my markers ready. Another reason this is so important is because when you're working on a text and you're doing all these little things throughout the unit, you want to have these artifacts that you can go back to and say, remember when we talked about it and it's hung on the wall and it's the work that's already been done. So let's talk about Tyrell and what characteristics of a 21st century learner he has that we just talked about today. So go ahead and just shout them out for me. What characteristics does Tyrell have?
Drop out from school?
Definitely. We talked about literacy skills. At what level are Tyrell's literacy skills? Pretty low. We don't know that for sure. We haven't seen his report card, but I would imagine that Tyrell is not writing essays all the time, right? He's not in school all the time. He's not reading for pleasure. He's doing a lot of other things, and he's found a need to drop out. So probably that he has low literacy skills. But still.
Reading in the home is not nurtured or encouraged. So a lot of struggling readers have that situation.
Go back a slide just in case you don't remind people. Yes.
Even the way it's written, he kind of speaks in slang, so you know he's not like doesn't speak necessarily properly, I guess.
He doesn't use standard English at all. Mm-hmm.
He's not wealthy, so I guess he doesn't have the tools to, I mean, he can't look things up on the internet all the time because he's not in the situation to do that.
Exactly. He's not exposed to, yes, thank you, resources to learn, definitely. He's not getting an iPad for Christmas, for sure, yes.
He doesn't have that strong parental support that you need at home that a lot of urban struggling readers are missing. He's got a mother who wants to keep his brother in special ed, and a father who's in jail.
These are, and that's an awesome point you brought up. Low expectations. And I think he mentioned that his brother is smart, so to keep him down is a little bit rough. Anything else you want to add? Rough and indicative of the home life that he has.
Poor nutrition.
I mean, he
the mom sent him to the store to get Pepsi and
Chips.
chips and juicy fruit gum, I think it was. I don't know.
Yes, so
I also think maybe the realization that he's not strong with literacy because he recognizes that his girlfriend, she succeeds and does quite well. So he even said, like, when she was lying to her mom, saying that he was still in school, and that's her thing. She does a good job in the classroom. So maybe his self-image in regards to being a learner.
okay, so he doesn't identify as a learner. I think that was one of the things we talked about in the first class I was in here with Dr. McLean, is that so many kids, essentially, young people, do not identify as readers. So it doesn't identify as a reader or a learner. Okay, so knowing that we have so many students like Tyrell, and even if we don't, we are going to come across them. And in our, to say the least, we want to help these students, but also we want to keep our jobs. And in this climate where we need our students to do well, we have to be thinking about how we're going to help improve all our students' literacy skills. All right, so what does instruction then in the 21st century look like? Actually, we had some more characteristics of kids from minority groups. Let's read those first. So once go ahead, thank you.
Only 86% of African Americans, 82% of Hispanic, and 78% of Native American 8th graders scored above the proficient level in reading.
So these kids that are coming into high school with us, this is what it looks like. Can you read the next?
Students with low literacy skills ultimately drop out, making up a sizable portion of the nearly 7,000 students who drop out of high school every school day.
There we have Tyrell right there. Adam, can you read the last one?
Poor and minority students comprise a significantly large percentage of the 1.2 million students who drop out of school every year.
All right, so again, this is even more Tyrell bringing in our ears. So what does instruction look like? Well, I got this visual of WordPress, and I thought it really represented well the instruction that I'm expected to teach. Excuse me. So we have our students in the 21st century. They're expected to learn these core subjects and 21st century themes. Those comprise, of course, media, technology. They comprise innovation skills. When I was doing research, a lot came up with collaboration, working creatively. They need to be prepared for college and career readiness. If you haven't been hearing this, you're going to start hearing it as soon as you start teaching college and career readiness. So how do teachers prepare ourselves to do this? Well, we're looking at how the students are, we're looking at the assessment scores, we're paying attention to curriculum, what's expected of us, also what our students need. Hopefully we're getting professional development and or seeking it out, and we're creating learning environments in which students like Tyrell, and really all our 21st century readers, can really flourish. And of course, we have the Common Core Learning Standards. These have had such an impact on teaching. I mean, when I first started teaching 10 years ago, people weren't really talking about, I had a principal who was a little bit ahead of his time. So he did talk about standards, but it not nearly as much as I hear it today. I got you a handout of the Common Core Learning Standards for English in grades 9 through 12. And I want you to really pay attention to what administration of my school is calling the Power Standards. That's Reading 1, Reading 10, and Writing 1. And these all fall in line with the argumentative writing. So if you take a look at the Reading Standards for Literature, Reading Literature Standard number 1. Somebody who hasn't read yet, please, Linda, would you mind reading that?
Sure. Cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly as well as inferencing, including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain.
Yes, this is huge. We want our students, and we're expected to have our students use textual evidence. Now, when we're talking about 21st century learners like Tyrell, like the students that we read about in the PowerPoint, they need that, okay? They don't have a lot of prior knowledge often. They don't have inferencing skills a lot of times, so they need to get the skills to look back at the text. Every time I have my students reading now, I have them with highlighters. We talk about what a close reading is. We have a focus. You have a different focus when you're reading nonfiction as opposed to when you're reading fiction. For whatever your aim is, you have a different focus for your close reading, but they're finding that evidence from the text. Reading standards for informational text, nonfiction. You always want to supplement nonfiction with fiction to help our 21st century readers who, again, don't have a lot of prior knowledge, don't have a lot of knowledge of the outside world. I have students who have never left the country, the state, let alone the country. You know, not so much anymore, but I still definitely have them. And actually, in my self-contained class, we're going to be reading a short story by Sherman Alexie. And so the last 2 days, we looked at maps of the Midwest. We looked at articles written by Native Americans. Well, one article. We looked at, tomorrow we're going to look at pictures I have. You know, we're really trying, so they can visualize, because that's another issue for our 21st century readers is visualizing. Okay, so our number 1 in reading for informational text, I'll just read that cite strong, thorough textual evidence again, and it goes on. So we're talking about textual evidence. And then flip it over to the power standard for writing, writing 1. Maggie, could you read that, please?
My arguments to support claims and analysis of substantive topics or texts, using valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence. Explore and inquire into areas of interest to formulate an argument.
Thank you. So just keep this in mind for September. We're asking our students to create an argument. Now these again are just buzzwords. Anytime you have a student say what they think, they're making a claim. We're just now asking them, using the Common Core, to give us evidence to support that claim. Well, you can't just say, Tyrell is a jerk. What's your evidence to show that? What has he specifically done in the text? And we're also using the other argumentative writing things. I don't think Tyrell is a jerk at all, by the way. So let's take a look at a little bit more research. We're talking about what strategies we can use to work with our 21st century readers. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, there are 5 strategies that really help us instruct our 21st century learners in order to improve their reading proficiency. Reading comprehension and motivation engagement on the left is what we're going to be focusing on. Alphabetic principle, fluency, and vocabulary are some other important things. That's where this word wall comes in, too, with starting building flashcards for them right away. And let's take a look specifically at comprehension. 2 components of comprehension were really important, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and I found in my classroom as well. One is prior knowledge, which we've been saying our 21st century readers lack, and the other is strategy instruction. I can tell my students to do a close reading of a text, but most likely they don't know what this means. I have to physically and literally and explicitly model for them what that means, okay? So as far as prior knowledge is concerned, those are the pre-reading activities that I just talked about with the Sherman Alexie short story we're going to read. Connections to personal experiences. Maybe some students do have some experience with Native American culture. And I have some experience with Native American culture, so I'm going to bring in my own personal experiences. Anticipation guides. Strategy instruction, we already used a graphic organizer today. We're going to be doing some cooperative learning in a second. And question answering is very, very important. Okay, so we are going to engage in a few minutes in an activity called a tea party. It is from this book by Kylene Beers, When Kids Can't Read, What Teachers Can Do. In one of the better classes I had for my master's education, we were required to use this book. For my first 5 years of teaching, this was my Bible, and now I just kind of know a lot of the strategies from doing them. I highly, highly recommend it. It's basically a pre-reading strategy, and it's going to help improve students' comprehension, especially with difficult tests. So, anytime I do any kind of activity with my students, like I said, I have to explicitly show them how to do it. So I'm gonna, instead of modeling, which I would in my classroom, I'm gonna show you just a little clip of doing this activity in my classroom with my students. Hopefully it works for me. I'm so afraid I'm gonna just
Teaching sold? Increasing?
another teacher is.
Okay.
Is this
I don't think it's coming through.
No, it's not.
Is it connected?
Try again.
Volume for
Is it connected?
I think it is. Yeah.
It is connected.
Oh, yeah, it's there.
Maybe something on there.
I don't know.
Then
just
it's
don't think
just
it's-
like
No,
What's that?
your volume.
in the center, can you slide the ball
This thing?
down,
like
where
the
the
bottom?
You see
Oh.
where the
Okay, maybe that'll
Maybe.
help
I don't have
us.
it on my computer, but
I love
I think.
people who
I don't think it's coming
Is the power on?
Yeah, I don't think you're
that
gonna
thing?
use like I think like on the Mac you have to switch like the audio output.
Yeah, you all.
Oh my God, my audio output. Where does that come?
Yeah, let me see if I can work stuff for you.
That would be so amazing.
I feel all this place.
I appreciate that so much. I have high school students doing stuff for me all the time.
That's like it's like
Maybe the volume thing up there.
You can go to the hourglass, search settings, and it'll pop up.
where is the hour?
Up, very top right corner.
I'm there for
Yeah, just setting.
Or system preferences, depending on what it's under.
Yeah, there
It
it
There
is.
it is. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so then I'm just gonna change the. That doesn't look like we're really working. Maybe I think actually we just go to sounds. I'm pretty sure.
No, it's
No,
all
those are
source
like actually
actions.
like a grouping of sounds.
What if you were
Yeah.
I can't. What if you were?
I know there's like a menu.
Browse device. What was that?
Wait, go.
Yeah.
And then go on top.
Okay.
That's where the
Sound over there.
System preferences.
sound.
Sound.
Everyone's
Everyone's really pulling for me.
USB sound device.
And now turn the volume up.
The
If
volume
the volume is off.
Oh no, I'm gonna find it again.
Okay, by the Wi-Fi.
Is
By
it
the
blinded?
Wi-Fi
By
symbol.
the Wi-Fi symbol.
Yep, there you go.
No, oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, that works. Oh, wait, now we use the,
Is it gonna be like crazy? Oh,
I don't know.
let me get. No, don't cover yours. I'll just lower it for a second. I don't want to mess up like your time on the video.
Yeah, it's coming through.
Yeah, we can just turn it up as we need it now.
So I'm just reading my excerpt aloud right now. My excerpt to model this activity, and then we'll talk about it. Little time, so that some of the first Russian workers would be gone when we reach the subway. Does anybody else have this excerpt about him walking slowly? Oh, Daniela. Anybody else in the room have it? Charlie, I know you have it. Guys, please work with me. I gave them the excerpts. All right, so I need
Daniela, you want to write for us? Charlie, you want to write, right? Come on up, please, Charlie. All right. Here's the marker that Steve could write for our group. Charlie, you and I will try to read these questions. So the first question says, what seems to be happening in the text? What do you think is happening based on this excerpt here? And we're going to get interrupted because this is the real world. We go and get some questions to the very crowd for the subway. So let's get in there. The dean asked me about a truant. I know who he is, but he's never attended. Correct. Have a good day. There's one thing you know he's doing, right? Getting ready. he's walking slowly to go to the train, right, number 1. Now, of course, we're going to write full sentences. So, in the text.
So I'm modeling now what I want the group to do using the students.
That he is walking slowly to get on the train.
And I'm giving this to them first because they need that. They need scaffolding. They need help at first.
So what's he doing?
This is a junior class.
Wastes time and he's stopping in a
Self-contained.
restaurant to waste time. Okay, slowly, that's okay. To the train. And then Charlie and I just decided that he's wasting time at a restaurant. Period. He's also wasting time at a restaurant. Also, he is. Remember, in full sentence, right? Also, he is wasting time at a restaurant. Good. Charlie, let's go to number 2 while she's working on that. That's all right. Not all the time. It's okay. We don't have to worry about punctuation and stuff right now. We'll do that when we edit it.
And I just corrected her punctuation, but I didn't want a kid like critiquing her work just yet. That's my job.
So, let's see. Well, he says walking slowly so as not to plunge into the hurrying crowd. Might be somebody who doesn't really like crowds that much. It says at the end, so some of the first rush of workers would be gone when we reach the subway. It seems like he doesn't want to be like involved with all the other workers. What do you think, Danielle? All the other people on the subway, what did you learn about him? Charlie and I were saying that because it says he doesn't like being in crowds and there's a lot of people. So from this excerpt, we have learned the character doesn't like being in crowds.
Oh.
So we're going to use the questions right from here in this excerpt.
So that's a model for them also how we use the words from the question in our answer.
Doesn't like being in crowds. I'm going to read this one more time, and for the rest of you guys help us out with question 3 while Danielle is writing that. The next question, what information is in the excerpt about the setting?
Now it's guided practice.
Tell me what we're about the setting. Well, yes.
Walking in the street, the train.
It is true. What is the definition of setting?
A place.
We need to review
What
auxiliary elements.
Time, period, and place. Time, period, and where the story takes place.
The story takes place in the neighborhood where the person walking in the street.
I'm going to read it again because there's a more definite part of the setting having to do with the place. But whenever you're thinking of setting, right, Tina, you have to think of where can we be transported to. If I had to travel somewhere to be in this story, where can I be transported to? So it says, it was a long ride to Harlem, and tonight the thought of it appalled him. Where is Harlem? Manhattan. He's taking what mode of transportation? The train. So we know he has to be somewhere where? In where?
The train station.
He's taking the train to Harlem in New York City, right? Okay, so that's something we learned about the setting. What do you need as that sentence? Good. About the setting? How would you word it?
So now it's about
How would you be worded?
starting them off. This is guided practice. They're practicing now. I showed them before how to word it. Now they have to figure out how to word it.
Yes, go on. Setting takes place. It's a synonym. It also means time period, but you don't have to use it too. Yes, the excerpt is set in, as Andrew told us, New York City. Okay? This is exactly what you guys are going to do. I'm going to give everybody an excerpt from this short story. You're going to read your excerpt, find who else has the same excerpt as you. You're going to get together in groups, and you're going to have these questions guide you as you analyze the text. Your responses to this question, you're going to put on loosely paper in your portfolio, your excerpt. We'll staple it together, okay?
Okay. So that is what we are going to do also now. So for another one of my classes, we read this article called Cultures Context for Adult Education, the Need for Culturally Relevant Adult Education. It's a high-level text. So we're going to do a modified version of the Tea Party. I'm going to pass this out and ask everyone to just take the one right on top of you. So we're all right on top of the pile. So we're all taking different ones, okay? Once everybody has their excerpt, you're going to do just that. You're going to get together with your groups. I'm going to give each group a piece of chart paper. And you're going to, I'm so excited about the snacks. So I'm forgetting this part of it. You're going to answer these questions. These are the Tea Party guiding questions. We're looking for what is the author trying to convey in the excerpt. We're looking for what do you think the article is about. Thank you, Linda. We're looking for in what ways does this excerpt illustrate or contradict the themes in Tyrell. Thank you. And then I'm going to ask you all to provide a quotation, which is our evidence for your claim, which is your answer to number 3 to support, to show how your quotation supports number 3, okay? And that's your warrant, where you're connecting the two. Now, Kylie Beers, in her book, recommends that this be done like a tea party, to bring in iced tea and to bring in snacks and really make this like a social gathering where students are getting together and over their tea and crumpets, they're doing works to make it exciting. So I have here some munchkins. Please help yourself to some as you find your group. The napkins are all, they're clean, they're just messy. All right? So join wherever you are, and I'll come around with chart paper and stuff for your groups and markers. Okay?
Go by color?
Yes, they do.
No.
Guys, page 7.
I wasn't going to read it. Just look at the colors.
Yes. Thank you. Where do you want to go? Yeah, we'll go here. I want to say over here. Take a copy. Yeah, we'll just have a table.
So are we blue? I
don't need tires.
Sorry. We're going with blue. Maggie.
Adam, I'm hoping it's working.
Okay.
Not that I'm there's actually
But what if we all just moved over there?
Chart paper for you all today. And a marker over here. Feel free to move wherever. You have 15 minutes, everyone. 15 minutes, then we'll share out. All right?
Can you pass me the story down? This is my last one.
Where are our carpets? Right on the table in the corner of the Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, and guys, don't forget about our effective group work guidelines. Where are they? Make sure we know each other and so on. Green group. Here's your chart paper and choose the marker. Here's the bag. I'll take this and I'll put your chart paper here. Thank you. Right group, you just two?
No,
oh, you're over there? Okay, you're going to take your paper with you and choose a marker.
Yeah. C-R.
Got it?
Yes.
I think so. You just hit the board.
looks like it's on there.
All right, so we are facing each other.
Just be honest to yourself. It's not like I did not. I think it's more the last. Like in other words,
Even if every single group there's characteristics, but individual members as well.
Or should we try and represent? Let's try and represent. Okay. So the culture is present and
For example, you take a group of English teachers.
Yeah, let's share the learning.
For this one, we use the word and how there's an actual one that's present in there, like if we raise the last line. Oh, you answered another question. Sure, why not? That would be like I guess. I think you have to know what is the last one.
So teachers make those
knowledge, essential lack of power aspect. Essential part of social
Number 3.
You have about 10 minutes. Yep.
So then, yeah, okay. it's like, why are we paying for it?
I guess
Maybe the whole gym.
Okay, in what ways does this extra
he's got no power. I think it shows that I'm trying to just one dollar.
And I guess it contradicts it because
people have these impressions of kids that they
Cultural awareness.
This is not
And being able to like bring it into a district that.
Yes, we've used the word
Trumpet.
It illustrates
This is my first one. Oh boy, chocolate.
She's right. She just don't think
urban teen, culture, any comments on that? You have 5 minutes. Actually, 6 minutes. So you share out.
What? Oh, it's yours? Oh, okay. I was taking whatever one was lying around, basically.
A quotation from Tyrell. Yeah, because that is, I don't know.
I don't know what Tyrell looks like.
Good question, guys. That's my fault. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I forgot to emphasize, and I'm clarifying now. For number 4, I mean provide a quotation from Tyrell. So you said for number 3, does this excerpt, illustrate or contradict Tyrell. Themes of Tyrell. Okay, so use a quotation from Tyrell show. Those is girl.
It was after we all I was there.
Show that he
And he's good for family though, and I should say in juxtaposition to Yamisha's.
We have about 3.5 minutes.
My mom, because he's like, my mom, commenting on I'm sorry that you're writing that
Our markers. Great job.
Identification. Yeah, we got a new one. Hey guys, prepare to share. Decide who's going to share for your group, or more than one person is fine. 2 minutes.
The article.
Christine's second paragraph? Yeah.
No, sorry. In juxtaposition. That I'm going to put it back.
You may have to illustrate that he can relate to get more motivation.
No, wait, I think this is just how.
Yes.
There's an S. With no beach, no vision.
And writing arguments less than all about the age and stuff.
So the explanation I learned how to the excerpt was
All right. So, writers, please finish up. Maybe if you need, you could just give the writers the text so we don't have to read any more aloud to them so you can see what they write while other groups are sharing, okay? Maybe we'll go this way. We'll start with this group, the blue group. Please read your excerpt and then you can share out what you've worked on.
Cultural self-awareness and detailed cultural knowledge of learners is best achieved through experiential learning. Adult educators should find ways to learn about the cultural backgrounds of their learners and to discover learners' webs of significance. Cultural self-awareness, cultural knowledge about learners, and instructional skills that are inclusive and empowering constitute the kind of knowledge and skills required for service to marginalized learners.
Okay.
So we said, in this excerpt, the teacher, he says that teachers need to understand the cultural backgrounds of their students to create an inclusive and empowering atmosphere in the classroom. We thought the article is either defending the use of this type of learning experience, or it's going to show us a certain theory on how to do it, or maybe both. This excerpt illustrates the themes in Tyrell by promoting cultural awareness and experiential learning. And the quotation, "She don't go to the kind of school I used to go to. She don't know what kind of shit I had to do to deal with every day," from page 42, excuse me. That's when he gets mad at his girlfriend for lying about him going to school to his parents. So if Tyrell could find the cultural support in his school, he would be able to relate to the material and find intrinsic motivation to succeed rather than drop out and deal with everything naturally.
Definitely. If perhaps the teachers were more aware that he wanted to be a DJ, then they could bring that maybe into the school. Maybe at the next school dance he could have DJ'd. Good, thank you, very good. Next group. Please start with the excerpt.
Is that us?
That is.
We're the yellow group.
The yellow group.
Okay, many predominantly minority communities are poor, undereducated, crime-ridden, and drug-infested, and they lack an institutional infrastructure to adequately deal with problems facing them. Financial or material resources are available at a grassroots level for community development or for group empowerment are minimal. Nevertheless, this cycle of oppression and its psychological and material consequences can be interrupted.
Okay, so number one, we put in this excerpt, the author is trying to convey that despite the disadvantages found in minority communities, there is still hope to break the cycle. Number two.
We said that the article is about urban education and how teachers can understand and address these issues.
Okay, and the third one we said, the first sentence in our excerpt describes the circumstances that Tyrell faces each and every day.
Okay, and number 4, from page 19, it says, "But there ain't nothing funny no more. The place looked like a bombed-out building from the outside, like something you see in the war movies. Inside it ain't no better. The place stink like old sneakers, probably because there ain't no fresh air in here. That's the first thing I noticed."
Okay, and that's a description of
the hotel.
The motel. Yeah. Good. Very good. Okay, next group.
So I'll just begin by reading the excerpt. Was that?
We don't exist.
Oh, I skipped this group. I'm sorry. You wanna go?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, our quote was, "As is always the case when discussing group level characteristics and issues, one runs the risk of oversimplification or of overgeneralization. It is therefore advisable to qualify any discussion about the status of ethnic or cultural groups by saying that individuals within groups may have different experiences from those described as characteristic of the group. But this acknowledgement need not minimize the practical significance of the points made because many, if not most persons within the groups described do experience an aspect of the group level descriptions."
Okay. We said in every group there will be common characteristics, and it is very important to remember that